Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. Today I'll be reviewing the Transformers Bishoujo Skywarp from Kotobukiya. Now, if you haven't seen my Starscream or Thundercracker reviews, basically this is a line of figurines where they've humanized and gender bent the Transformers figures and characters, and effectively it's sort of like if a person was cosplaying as them. That's sort of how I've taken what this whole line is, and it's just a cool little way to celebrate G1 and Transformers in general, and all the references are really cool. Some of the figures turned out better than others, but generally all of them are very good. It's just that some I like more than others, and usually that comes down to me liking a character more than others. But again, the line has been really cool. If you want me to go really in depth on like differences and references of characters, don't expect that in this review. That's more from the original Starscream review that I did, where I compare the Starscream figure to a Masterpiece style Transformers Starscream that is G1 accurate, so you can see like all the references and differences that these figures have taken. And any of my other Transformers Bishoujo reviews, I do similar things, but for these repaint ones, I just compare them to the original that it's based on. And I don't go into too much detail because a lot of these are repaints. It's like 95% the same figure, so all of my criticisms and praise are relevant between all of it, because there isn't really anything to fix between these releases. If there were massive QC issues, then sure, I'd go into it, but thankfully this line's been pretty damn consistent, so anything that I say from that Starscream and the Thundercracker is pretty relevant here. It's just an aesthetic thing, and we will be getting into it very shortly. I'm not going to be looking at the box because it's the same again as the Starscream, just with Skywarp on it instead, and the same can be said for the Thundercracker. So we'll be looking at the figure straight out of the box, and Skywarp is looking very good. Out of all the Seekers, Skywarp is my favorite design. I like the darker colors. The bold purples look really good. It does definitely read as Decepticon, whereas like Thundercracker and Starscream, you know, if you swapped around the insignias, you could probably pass them as Autobots with how bright the colors are. Although Thundercracker and Starscream work well as contrasting colors to each other, I think Skywarp stands very well with their darker colors and has a lot of cool presence when they're by themselves. When they're lumped with the others, they do unfortunately sort of blend into the back because their colors are a bit more muted. But as a figurine, this is very nice. All of the paint apps and sculpt are fantastic. All of them thus far for all of the Seekers have been perfect. All the shading is nice. The details are very good. They've taken some small liberties with it and differences between the Starscream and this one. Thundercracker and Skywarp are very similar in design, because instead of like the Starscream where there's a lot more skin showing, both Skywarp and Thundercracker have got their skin covered for the most part. Their arms are still bare as well as their face. They also changed the skin tone between all three of these figures, where the Starscream is more like tan Garu style, whereas Skywarp and Thundercracker are more pale. And even between Thundercracker and Skywarp, it is a different skin tone, so one is more pale than the other, which is very cool that they've actually consistently done different skin tones. And the only sculpt differences are in the face. So Skywarp probably has the most distinct face out of the lot, with a sort of haughty, laughing smile, and it looks quite good, honestly. And I do think it's nice that they, at the very least, did that to change the expression of all three of these figures when you display them together, and it is nice like that. Again, differences between figures. Like I said, the bare skin parts of Starscream are covered up on Skywarp, and I like the stocking and undershirt colors that they've chosen here. It makes it more clear that it is sort of like a stocking, whereas Thundercracker, you could almost sort of pass it off as an extension of the boot just a tiny bit, whereas for Skywarp it is very clearly a stocking difference between the boot and the thigh, and the midriff is a very nice color as well. And all of the detail and shading and paint, it's all immaculate. The Decepticon insignias, the base, the backpack, everything is very nice. The colors on the hair, it just looks really good. Ultimately, there isn't a whole lot for me to say about these figures, really, just because I've looked at the Starscream at length, looked at the Thundercracker sort of at length-ish. I talked about it a lot, but I didn't really talk about how good the figure was beyond it being just as good as the Starscream. And the same can be said for the Skywarp. All three Seekers are immaculately painted and look very, very good. Would I have liked even more differences in the sculpts? Yeah, the pose could have been changed just a tiny bit more, like they've done with the Cliffjumper and Nemesis Prime, but ultimately they do look good together. I think because they're mirroring their poses completely, it works even better as them as Seekers. But, you know, shelling out $200-300 each on these figures, I can see people being upset that they are exactly the same, but it is ultimately your decision if you want them or not. But I do think they do enough to justify them being standalone figures because the color schemes are so different and the paint job is as consistently good as it is. But realistically, I don't think there's that much more for me to add to this discussion beyond this is a very good figure, same as the other two, same as the entire Bishoujo Transformers line. And because of that, this video will probably be cut short, because I don't think that it's worth me repeating myself for every single video. But I just really recommend checking out the Starscream one, because that's when I go into more detail. And I've filmed all the B-roll for this, so I will still be showing what makes these figures really good. But it's just that I won't really be talking about it, because I've talked about it at length prior. But I do think it is worth noting that they are doing more limited release figures and repaints. I do think that they should do new figures entirely. I think a Shockwave and a Soundwave would be really cool. Grimlock would be interesting. Ironhide would be cool. Even if you went past G1, if you did some Beast Wars stuff, that'd be pretty cool. Like a Black Arachnia, like that would work. It's already designed like that. Or RC could work. I think that the gender bend angle works really well. It really, really does. But I think if you went for the actual Fembot Transformers, you could have a bit more fun with it and go deeper into those designs. But for now, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I will see you all next time. I will most likely be looking at the Cliffjumper when and if it finally arrives for me. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I will see you all next time.